We have an exciting session this afternoon, and I will briefly just mention who the panelists are and the participants. We are seeing you coming in. Thank you very much. We have the CS, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife, Honorable Najib Balala. He's our chief guest. We have Dr. Betty Radier, Chief Executive Officer, Kenya Tourism Board. And we will be waiting to hear also from Alex Avedi, Safari Link, but he'll be representing the Kenya Association of Air Operators to speak as a member of KTF and also to give us insights, matters concerning aviation. And we have our moderator for the day, who is none other than the chairman of Kenya Tourism Federation, Mr. Mohamed Hessi. I'm handing it over to you at this point. Please take us through the rest of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan, and good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to make a special, welcome to our panelists. We have our Waziri, Honorable Najib Balala. We have Dr. Betty Radia, and we have Alex Avedi, and my co-moderator, my Sharia here. And so far, we have 314 people who have already registered in Waziri and everybody. I'd like to thank each one of you for finding time, apart from the panelists and also the members. I can see a long list and still coming in, and that is what we're looking for. And we hope in the next 90 minutes, we're going to have a very good interactive session where we're able to look at ways and means on how to move forward in this particular crisis that we are in. The people in front of you, ladies and gentlemen, do not need any introduction, starting with our Waziri. This is a man, I call him Mr. Fix-It. Every time we have a problem in tourism, he's invited to come and sort us out. I recall 2007, 2008, post-election violence. And then 2013, 14, when he was comfortable at the mining ministry, he came over again to sort us out when the issue of kidnapping in Somalia, on our borders and Somalia became an issue before our armed forces went into Somalia. The rest, as they say, is history. And today, Waziri, you're with us again in another crisis, and hopefully we should be able to sail through. And then we have Dr. Betty Radia, who wears many hats, and she's been a friend of tourism for many years, but this time around, she is very much in of the biggest crisis that's not only facing Kenya, but it's facing the whole world. And then Alex Avedi, one of the reasons why we've decided to bring Alex is we've always focused on hotels and tours. And what we're forgetting is that people must fly to the destination. And we must listen to people who run the aviation industry, people who run the airlines. Yeah, without them, there'll be no tourism Waziri, and there'll be no people coming in here. We all need to keep in mind that the people coming to Kenya are all what? Long haul, 8 hours, 10 hours, people coming from other continents. And the only way to get here is flying. So today, Alex, who is the CEO and MD of Safari Link, will be able to take us through some of the challenges they're facing and solutions on probable solution of what we are going to do. And of course, you all are familiar with Mike Macharia. I'd like to thank Macharia. He's worked very hard with Waziri's office to help us in addressing the tax amendment bill that recently was put through. He managed to lobby all different sector players and also on government side, so that we were able to take out almost, I think, 7 or 8 taxes that were supposed to have come back. And that will have made very difficult our work, the work of Waziri, for us in our recovery. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to say one thing. We are not here to lecture you. We are here to interact. Please, I suggest that you type in your questions and give us, also indicate the name where you want your question addressed. We'll try as much as possible to address them. But I also like to state this, that none of us on this panel have that magical, whip. You say, this is going to happen and it happens. We are supposed to interact and we need to move forward together. Going back to COVID-19, this is a new virus. It keeps on changing. People don't know much about it. And all countries are dealing with it in their own way. So we will also seek some patience from your side. But if you do have any solution on how we can be able to move forward, please feel free. So at this point, I'll now like to invite our chief guest, our CS, Honorable Najib Balala, to give us the opener. And then we'll move forward to Dr. and then Alex, and then we proceed on. And some of the things we'll be addressing today is that tourism, where are we now? and how is the future looking? Because we have to be optimistic on where we want to go, but at the same time, we also need to be realistic. And then on the other side, quick, assessment of the effects of this COVID-19. We are all conversant with the effects it has had. Airport is closed, virtually nothing coming in apart from cargo. There are no passengers coming in unless it's Kenyans who are returning. That's how bad it is. And then how resilient are we as Kenya? Because remember, many other countries are also putting their acts together so that they can bounce back. We are not alone in the business of bouncing back. Over 120 or 140 countries will all be fighting very hard to get a share, of this of tourism. And then before we leave, we'll be looking at what is the way forward. At this point, Waziri, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mohammed, and thank you very much the panelists and members of KTF, but also the audience and the participants who are participating in today's webinar. I want to thank you, Mohammed, KTF, and Susan for a wonderful presentation you did 2 weeks ago or last week. Yeah, you did a wonderful thing. I couldn't attend, but my Chief Administrative Secretary, Joseph Boynet, was there, and I was given the report. So I want to thank all of you. I think one thing that we have realized is that the collaboration between the private sector and government. I think the sharing of information is crucial, and then also educating each other. We need to be informed of what the situation is so that we can react with the right policies as government. Also, we need to understand what is the effect of our policies. This two-way collaboration is crucial. But I want to say that we are in a very difficult, unprecedented situation. It is not about Kenya. It's about the world. All of us together are in it. It's not about government or private sector. It's about all of us. So when we sometimes do policies or when we want to resolve issues, it cannot be about one side against the other. So sometimes we hear that everybody is waiting for government. Even if government wants to hear from you, how do we do it? And this is very important. We are under difficult times now. If you think you lost businesses, government has lost revenue. The same way, the only thing government cannot, it can be declared bankrupt, yeah, but also government survives. But these are the things that we all feel the pain together. We try to advise, or I on your behalf, when we had our first meeting at Serena, we were the first sector to have that meeting. We held a meeting, you gave me your inputs, I have presented all those issues to the Treasury. A few of them are being implemented. A few of them still need gradual implementation. So we are trying on the side of government. But it's not supposed to be only government that does the intervention. It must be also the investors must do interventions. I like the COVID fund interventions that are done by the private sector. That's very encouraging when you see Equity Bank putting 300 million. Where did they get the money? They got the monies because they made profit years ago. Yeah, if you see Kenya Breweries, or if you see other stakeholders, yeah, we need to see also. I want to encourage you in the tourism sector. We need to see you in the forefront in that COVID fund to donate, like the other sectors that donate, because it's not only tourism that is pained or has gone through this crisis. Every sector in this economy has gone through this crisis. So every sector goes through the reforms. They go through probably a right sizing or redundancy. These are realities of life. But I want to say here, I think this is an opportunity when we have a platform like this together. In fact, I said, if this corona goes, would I be as busy as I am now? It has made us more busy. It has made us more thinking out of the box. Let me tell you, I've thrown the box away. I don't want to think out of the box. I want to think afresh. I want to change my mindset. I want to do things differently. This is my personal thing, and I have told my team in my ministry. And let me tell you, the future will not be the same. Whatever case, even if we finish after 2 years and we are back and we have a vaccine, I can tell you the future is not going to be the same. It will be a different game. So it's all of us to start thinking, how do we change? How do we think that we will be surviving in the next future? Don't expect that there'll be a solution from government or from KTF. There'll be no solutions from anybody. We have to create the solutions inside us. Yeah. So yes, the future will be there. This will pass, but it will be a different holding. I can tell you, Chair, somebody told me probably tourism became tourism out of default. It wasn't really structured and planned and things be structured in a way that other destinations are done. Yeah, probably if that is the case, then let's restart everything afresh so that we are not by default, it's by design. Because sometimes when you look at the situation, particularly government, I want to own up here, sometimes government does not feel tourism. It doesn't feel tourism. It thinks this sector is for foreigners who come into the country, or it's just for people who have money to spend. No, but tourism is about the mama mboga. Today, restaurants are closed is because those markets cannot get businesses. In fact, the markets are pushing government that you need to open up restaurants so that they can be able to buy their cabbages and their fruits from the market, because then the agricultural sector get affected. We are consuming sector. We consume electricity, we consume finance, we consume technology. So we are an important sector. If you think we are 10% of the GDP, we are 24% of the GDP, because we have the linkages to affect the other sectors of our economy. So no country in the world has been spared. They have been affected in one way or another. So yes, we employ almost 1.6 million people. Those are people who your organization have registered with us. But imagine how many people have not been registering with us. Almost 2.5 million people work in this sector. So yes, we need to be sensitive as government. And now I think government has known the impact of tourism, not only in Kenya, but all over the country. I want to say that there's something that we need to do. And if you think that tourism is going to open the same way it used to be, I'm sorry, you're wrong. We are going to reopen, but differently. I don't want to talk about the private sector. The private sector needs to come up and tell us, as government, what will be the new reset the private sector is planning to have. I'll tell you myself, in my jurisdiction, we have to have institutional reforms in the Ministry of Tourism with all the agencies, so that all our agencies are facilitative instead of them being an obstacle to economic growth and to your services. That is key. We don't want to see, we want KTB to reach out, we want TRA to reach out, we want tourism levy to reach out. That is what we want to do. We want to reach to you as our best client, and we can't lose you. Number two is innovations. Innovations and technology is key. We don't want to start looking for licenses and come and inspect your facilities and fill forms. No, you must be online. I don't have to physically send a team of levy collectors to your premises. I need to monitor you online with GPS. That is technology we need to do. We need every one of you to register with us so that we can be able to work together and facilitate. And then the third thing, we must invest as government. Doesn't mean directly invest, but we can look at innovative way of syndicating PPPs. We must have a brand new airport. If we want to become an airline hub, we must support the aviation sector. If we need to grow both for export and passengers, we must build a new tourism convention center. If we want to be number one in MICE, we must have the infrastructure that is state of the art, that you don't have to spend 3 hours from the airport to your hotel in Nairobi. Security is number one. And then the cost of doing business, we must as government look at it seriously. We must look at it. For example, I have taken the responsibility, I've shared this with my colleagues in cabinet. A hotel in Nairobi, for them to just get everything compliant, they need almost 20-something processes to go through. And then it costed them 2.4 million shillings because they have a few experts have to be working in their establishment. This cost of doing business must be reduced. And we must, definitely government needs taxes, government needs to sustain itself, but we must find a way of reducing costs of doing business. So Chairman, I'm going to relax now and listen to ideas, but definitely when we talk about institutional reforms, and probably I was directed by Susan to answer one or two questions. If you allow me, I can answer now, or you can pause them for me to answer. Thank you, Chair.
I would like to, we'll keep that towards the end, and I know as we progress. Waziri, thank you very much for such a strong opener. And yes, the issue is change. I think you have emphasized on that time and again. Change, and for sure, moving forward, post-COVID, if at all there will ever be a word like post-COVID, unless there is a vaccine or cure, then COVID will be here with us. And hopefully it is not going to be that way. I hope they find a cure and a vaccine. Then the other one, of course, is reaching out, innovation, and GOK investment, which is the infrastructure bit of it and the facilitation. At this point, let me now invite Dr. Betty Radier to take us very quickly her opener, and then we'll come to Alex in a short while. Betty? Betty, we need to unmute your mic.
I didn't think that's how I'd start that. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mo. Thank you, CS, and thank you to all of the people that have joined this discussion. As the CS says, it is hard times. And I think it is much more difficult for an organization such as KTB, where you hope always that you have partners that prepare a product for you, and you're then able to include or put in what is the marketer's role, which is make the product look much better than it actually is, and put it out there, and hopefully people take it up. So for to start off with, the challenge that we face is divided in our minds in three categories. The first one is economic, which is very apparent. The second one is social, which is an area that has become quite an interesting area, in that there's the social that, as we know it, in terms of how citizens and different populace in different countries are affected from the effects of COVID. But more importantly, there's the social aspect as relates directly to our industry. What's already apparent is the person that we called the traveler is going to be completely different. And where before the traveler looked to destinations and looked to trade and looked to what is out there for them to make a decision around travel, the tables have turned. The traveler is now going to be demanding. In order for me to consider you, here's my shopping list of things that I need you to make me comfortable in order for me to even shortlist you. And the things that they're asking for us to make them comfortable are social things. What's your health system like? What is your sanitation like? How will I get to your destination? What will you need me to have before I get there? Travel has now become, in today's world, first of all, a 28-day block off, because you have 14 days of quarantine as I arrive in your destination, and I have 14 days as I go back to my destination. Right there, that becomes the fundamental of how it is that our industry begins to see a downturn. So there's that aspect. Then there's the aspect about all of the fears and uncertainty that people have that they will not tell you openly, which is, do I want to be in a place that has more than 15 people? The narrative that is being propelled during COVID is social distance, social distance, social distance. So like Pavlov's law, it will become something that people expect. They will expect it at the airport, they will expect it in the hotels, they will expect it in our facilities, they'll expect it as they experience the destination. And therefore that becomes a new challenge which we had not earlier on thought about. Then there's the third aspect that says, yes, you sold me your staple products, which say was beach and safari. How many people are there? What does that mean? When I say I'm going to a hotel, who cleaned my room? How do I know that I can bring my family? What age of children will I bring? So there's all of those things that become the social challenges around our industry. This is before we even talk about the partnership that we need to have with our stakeholders who are the trade, who now have to go the next level, which says, this is the product I have. They've got economic impact. We're now going to add on a lot more asks in order to be able to give us a product that is ready for the new traveler. The new traveler will now not be segmented into 3 or 4 categories or socioeconomic groups. There'll now be psychographics where you say, yes, they're in this same age band, but they're more risk averse. Yes, they're in this same age band, but they're more adventurous. Yes, they're in this same age band, but they worry more about the issues around the social aspects in the destination. Do they have, what does the health facility look like? Is it a cumbersome process? Do I need additional protocols to get into that destination? And all of those things happen even before we begin to sell the destination. So that is where we are. And that will be the new normal, which means we as an institution, but also with our partners, need to completely relook at how it is that we say we are the destination that's ready for you, without having this traveler now who literally has the power to say, no, I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable was never a language in our industry. It was always, what's the value? I can go somewhere better. It's closer. It's short haul. It's long haul. There's another vocabulary that's come on. Are you COVID ready? Can I come to your destination and be comfortable? It's about me and my family. It's about me and my friend. It's about our group of people. So those are the challenges that we open with, even as we think about tourism today and moving forward. Thank you, Mo.
Thank you, Dr. Betty Redia. I think that's a very strong opener from you as well. And you're challenging the industry players, be it airlines, be it hotels, be it tours, be it travel, be it pubs and restaurants. What are we going to offer the world, and how are we going to package ourselves in post-COVID scenario? And the whole world is doing that. When you read, you watch clips coming in, I think Dubai is setting the pace on the many things that they're going to do differently, because at the end of the day, it's about who's going to be first off the block. And I think you've given us huge challenge as industry players, as a hotelier, as a tour person, as a travel person. So ladies and gentlemen, on this forum, I think Dr. Betty Redia, her role is to sell the destination. But now she's asking us, how ready are we to reassure the world? And the bottom line is now health and sanitation, things that we took for granted until the other day. And social distancing is completely opposite of the business that we do, because our business is about socializing. Come and have fun. And suddenly you're being told you cannot have fun, which is undermining tourism. So how do we reassure the world that, look here, we can still do social distancing while we are still doing business? We'll come to that in a short while. But meanwhile, now let me take the opportunity to bring on board Alex Avedi. Alex has over 18 years experience in aviation and is the CEO of SafariLink Airline, one of the leading airlines in this country that help all our clients to move from one point to the other point, and actually in the region, East Africa. So Alex, over to you now. Karibu.
Thank you, Mohammed, for that introduction, and Waziri and Dr. Radia for your very good presentation on the situation as it is right now. So I'll be wearing 2 hats. One is really to speak as a member of the Kenya Association of Air Operators. And this is an organization which has all the air operators in the country, well, not all, most of them, including Kenya Airways. And then also to speak as a tourism player, because mostly SafariLink, we fly to the parks. About 80% of our business is actually tourism related. So looking at it globally, everyone knows where airlines right now are. You've seen all those pictures on social media and elsewhere of hundreds, thousands of aircraft packed around the world. And actually, we've also seen that airlines who were in the last few months, weeks, have gone bankrupt. We have also heard from IATA that the performing airlines only had about 2 months cash cover, the best performing. If you look at it from an African point of view, Africa has always been making losses, African airlines, that is. Now, coming to a Kenyan perspective, we, for example, as Safarilink, are very dependent on generally long-haul traffic. So this is really, and our source markets for Kenya have really, really been affected because if I look at my data, our biggest source market is North America, the US, Canada, and then followed by Europe. You have the UK, Germany, Italy, France, Netherlands, and so forth. And then in Africa, the biggest source market is South Africa. And then when you go to Asia, it's India and China. Now, for some reason, all these destinations are really, really have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. So now, unfortunately for airlines, airlines are both capital intensive and labor intensive. So you find that you've taken in a lot of debt, or if not taken debt, you're trying to finance it from your cash flows, and aircraft are very, very expensive. And what most people don't understand is aircraft typically have a 30-year lifespan, and some even up to 40 years. So it's a very expensive product that you're financing over 20, 30, 40 years. And then the surprising thing about aircraft leases is that you do not have a force majeure situation, which is very strange, but that's the reality of our business. So you're expected to pay whether there's a pandemic or not, you're expected to pay. Obviously, right now, everyone is negotiating with the lessors. But now coming back to us as Kenya, what's the impact? What does this mean for us? I think basically it means our source markets, a lot of the long-haul carriers will probably collapse, will not exist. So coming to places like Kenya is going to be quite difficult because how do you make your way? And then if you talk about social distancing, the question will be, do people want to be 1 and 2 hours? Actually, it's going to be more than 2 hours now, because if you're going to do the 1.5 meters, you can imagine in some of the busy airports, the queues will be kilometers long trying to process people. So do I want to queue for that long? And then do I want to be in an airport terminal, and then do I want to be in a confined tube for 8 to 10 hours to come to Kenya? And then once I come to Kenya to go into quarantine, and then after that, I'm not sure about if something, God forbid, happens to me, I'm not sure, does Kenya have the facilities to take care of me when I'm there, etc. So basically, I think what we're going to see is really that the prices will drastically go up, I think, because getting accessibility to Kenya will be difficult. And when you come to, now the people who will be able to come in, it's also going to be very costly for us as vendors to provide the service that they're used to, given all these measures. And so it's just going to make the cost go up more and more. And if you take the fact that we've had a huge explosion of low-cost travel, and low-cost travel, according to what Mohammed, you said, it is also like the hotel industry. It's really anything which adds expense kills it. So you want to have as many people packed to bring the cost of the airline ticket low. So I think it's going to be a very hard time for us, challenging times. And then the other thing is we're looking at it, maybe it's going to take at least, from what Ayat and others are saying, it probably take at least 2 years to get back to where we were. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex, and thank you for the detailed response and the opener in terms of aviation and travel in general. And where you're seated, if I was to ask you to tell us probably, how do you see the next month? Firstly, let's say the next even 3 months, because questions are coming in, and some of the questions being asked is, when are we going to reopen our airspace? When are we going to restart flying? because everybody is very eager to open their businesses and move on. They're very, very impatient, to do that. But the thing is that this is beyond Kenya. It is global. So I can see, Tony, like what I've just said here, that Kenya Airways, we are looking at 20th of May. Qatari Airlines, we're looking at something like 19th of May. Some are asking, when will domestic flights resume? And then still to you, Alex, social distancing and the airline, for instance, that you operate, and many other players who operate out of Wilson, which are small, already you are challenged in terms of operating efficiently in terms of cost because of your numbers, because we keep complaining that the cost of ticket is high. Now, in the new era of social distancing, how will you tackle that? So please, maybe let's start with you, and then we move from back now to forward, yes.
Okay, thanks, Mohammed, for those two questions. So just looking at it, like yesterday I was reading, BA mentioned that initially they hoped to resume on June 15th because of the quarantine measures which are in place in the UK. They said, well, you know what, we're not going to start on the 15th of June because it doesn't make sense. Now, for us, we wait to be guided by the government of Kenya, obviously. When are they going to open the airspace? But even if they open the airspace, then the question is, how many people are confident right now to travel? And then also, if you do come in and respectfully to Waziri, I think the Ministry of Health has done a poor job in getting public. Quarantine has become a punishment in the minds of Kenyans, that if I'm in quarantine, I'm in punishment. It's not something to help you. So now people, and some of the pictures on social media about the quarantine facilities and the cost of quarantine in Kenya, I would not come to Kenya, really. If I knew I had to be come here and then to be taken to compulsory quarantine somewhere, which is beneath me, for want of a better word, I'll say no, I'd rather stay away. So it has to be done in tandem. So we have to make sure that if people are coming into the country, are we going to accept certificates, for example? If somebody has been tested coming out of the UK or coming out of the US or wherever, do we recognize that that test is valid? How long is it valid for when they come in? How long are we going to hold them in quarantine, if at all? Or will we allow them to head to Masai Mara and kind of self-isolate as they're watching the animals? Those are some of the questions. So if we don't answer that, even if we open we say June 15th, we are opening our borders, we're not going to see people coming to travel in the short haul. So the initial people that we'll see traveling are domestic. It will not be, in my mind, it's not going to be international traffic, it will be domestic traffic. It will be Kenyans going to Mombasa, going to Diani, going to Kisumu, and so forth. People going to see their relatives. They're basically friends, visiting friends and relatives. So that will be their first recovery. But now the question is going to be, what are the government guidelines, to your second question, on social distancing? For example, I fly a 50-seater. So what is the social distancing on that? So far, it's not been clear. What we do know is that the social distancing on private cars, on matatus, on buses, but there's nothing about aircraft. Now, the economics of aircraft is such that if you have social distancing, I can tell you for free, I'd rather park. There's no point, because it's going to be a massive, massive loss. But now, if you look at the science, what the data shows, up to now, there's been no infection on an aircraft. So if you have some protocols, and there's a reason to that. First of all, if you do the thermometer gun, people coming for screening, to be screened, and they're wearing masks, and they get on board, then once they're on board, you don't offer any services, so there's very limited interaction between the crew and passengers. And then also you take the fact that is it better for somebody to be 8 hours to go to Kisumu from Nairobi and to spend 30 minutes on an aircraft? Where's the opportunity for exposure? So if anything, actually, you have to push flying is really the savior in a sense. Going to Mombasa, why take another 8-10 hours and you could be there in 40, 50 minutes. But it will not be economical to have everyone, because if you say the 1.5 meters in an aircraft, it actually means, strictly speaking, it's not even the middle seat. You know, that is very psychological, where somebody says, okay, there's nobody seated next to me. But practically, it's of no, you know, even if I remove the middle seat, you're still not 1.5 meters, the back seat. But here's the thing, if you are wearing your mask, the science says that, you know, and you don't have a temperature, you shouldn't really get exposed. And if you're wearing gloves, for example. And then the other thing is, on aircraft, they have what is called a HEPA, high efficiency particulate air filter, which kills 99.9% of bacteria and known viruses. So in an aircraft, actually, you are pretty safe, because the way they're designed, it takes care of all these factors. But the issue is, will the traveling public accept that, the psychology?
Maybe Mohammed, I can come in here. Yeah, with due respect to the aviation sector, we want to support it. It's crucial to the development of tourism and also the growth of numbers. You have seen the TripAdvisor report. People say they will travel, but they will travel by road. Okay, and fortunately in Europe, the road network is big. The rail network is quite extensive. Here in Africa, we have this problem, and in Kenya in particular. So you drive from Mombasa to Nairobi, or to Kisumu, or to Nanyuki, all this, yeah? And we did not make it easy. Let me tell you, let me be frank to you, that the cost of even domestic flights have been very expensive. Mombasa, Nairobi is very expensive. Until just recently, when the young airlines, which have come, the low cost, it tries to push the others. Even flying to Masai Mara. You fly to Masai Mara with $300, it cannot fly this time. It cannot, we must reduce those costs to get clienteles, because those costs will not be affordable for people to come and do their safaris in Kenya. Yeah, it's going to be very expensive. But the most important thing is that, how do we accommodate all this? First of all, let me be clear that social distance will be the norm. Will be the norm in the next 1 year or 2 years. Yeah, hygiene will be the norm. The issue of mask will be the norm. Yeah, we cannot say that aircrafts, they don't, you cannot contaminate. There's no guarantee that, because we saw how Kenya Airways staff, some of them got contaminated. From where, we don't know. Again, the issue of the certificate, the COVID health certificate that are being given at the airport in London or anywhere. When you come here, you must quarantine. You must be quarantined. Because if you don't do it, then there is another possibility. So we are not too sure yet. For example, the UK has announced every single visitor going to the UK will be quarantined for 14 days. So it's not about Kenya putting a rigid position. No, it's the entire world want to safeguard their own citizens. Countries and European unions have said in the next 6 months, they will discourage people to fly out of the country or out of the continent. So these are realities. And let's not wake up and think, oh, we are going to open our airspace after 1 month, or we will remove the curfew after 1 month, and then you think people will come for the migration and end of June. It will not happen. It will not happen. We sympathize with the situation, but it will not practically happen. As Alex said, first of all, the airlines will see, do we have enough load? If the load are small, they're not going to, but they rather park themselves. And if the social distance rule come in, which it will come in, if matatus and other, even private cars, you have your own family, which you are all negative, but you cannot travel more than 4 people in a private car. So the same thing with an aircraft. So those protocols will come eventually. I have discussed with my colleague, James Macharia, in the Ministry of Transport. He's going to call a meeting with the stakeholders. The protocols are very clear, is how do we roll out those protocols of different subsectors of our economy. But I want to say that the issue of quarantine, unfortunately, as Alex was saying, initially was mishandled. It's an unfortunate thing. Now it's handled well. It's been handled well. We have improved our facilities as government. Yeah, and look at what happened to the sick people who came from India. Everything was efficient. let me tell you, these are unprecedented times. We don't know how to do this. We don't have a playbook where we know we'll follow the rules. We don't know, but we try our best. I've been sitting in those meetings. If there is any time government has been overworking, you ask our assistants around us, it's nightmare. Nightmare, the government. I sympathize with CS Kagwe. I sympathize with CS Matiangi. I sympathize with all my colleagues, what they do to make this country safer. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much, Waziri, and we appreciate what the government is doing. And I think one of the things that we like to commend government is how they handled the evacuation flight from India, and specifically also to thank Kenya Airways. Alex, please give regards and thanks to Kenya Airways. I think someone posted the other day on KEPSA forum and said this is the first time they're saying the importance of actually having their own national carrier. Other African nationals who are stuck in India are all waiting to be evacuated by other airlines, and you need to start negotiating with those other countries for them to accept to fly to India first. Then number two, eventually pick you and take you either to Nigeria, Ghana, or wherever. But here we had our own airline, and we just hope and pray that Kenya Airways will be able, to come back one of these fine days in a very strong way where they used to be. And then on quarantine, that was also handled very well again, Waziri. And I think moving forward, as we try to, bring back tourism, those are some of the things that we will be addressing. Now, Waziri, since you're on the issue of COVID, next door Tanzania, we work very closely with Tanzania in terms of tourism. Almost 40% of their tourists will land in Nairobi, and then we share Mara, Amboseli, and then they extend into Tanzania. And Tanzania, unfortunately, have not been very, very open. You may choose what to say, Waziri, in your position, I understand, but we are very concerned because Tanzania are not very open in terms of the numbers, and that is worrying everybody. And the big concern is that Kenya may have recovered. We may have put our ducks in a row, but suddenly Tanzania have not. We have the open borders, Lunga Lunga, Horo Horo, Namanga. Where will that leave us, Waziri? Waziri, your mic.
Let me just say it, Chairman and members, that first of all, any traveler who wants to travel will be able to evaluate the destination. What happened the destination during the COVID-19? How do they handle it? How do they behave? What are the protocols? So they will be actually blacklisting some of these countries that are not adhering with WHO, but also how does the standard operating procedures that has been put forward by the government. So we are trying, sometimes you think we are very rigid and we are very tough, but these are the things that will help us in the future to revive the economy. So yes, we are worried about that. You have heard yesterday, 9 of our drivers want to cross Tanzania were positive. 5 of their drivers from Tanzania coming to Kenya, they do not have the facilities at the border to check. So today we have positioned a mobile clinic laboratory that will not only check Kenyans, but also will check the drivers, because we need those goods to come in and out between Kenya and Tanzania. So we assist our neighbors as well. But I can tell you, we have been working very well with Uganda, and we want to continue. We are worried about our borders in Tanzania, and we are worried about our borders in Somalia. But the National Emergency Committee is working on it, and the Security Committee also is looking into that, and then those protocols will be given at a later time.
No, thank you very much, Waziri, and I think you've clearly mentioned it. Those protocols will come to help us in future when we get the international tour operators asking us, how have you handled COVID? And especially when it comes also to WHO, just the way they give you a clear certificate when it comes to cholera or polio, they'll be very happy to say this is what Kenya has done, and who knows, we'll have a pole position on that. Coming to you, Dr. Betty Radia, everybody is asking, what is the future and how are you going to come back? Assume we have sorted out all the things that you've said we need to do, all right? Now, we've also been told domestic is the one to bounce back first, and then followed by regional, then hopefully global. What are the plans, Dr. that you've laid out for us? And you say, you know what, this is what we are looking at when COVID has subsided, and this is the plan there. And then probably you can also give us some time frame. We'll remember very well on the Tembea Kenya campaign that we had, which was very successful, that actually taught Kenyans and educated Kenyans on the importance of traveling. And also thanks, Waziri, to that. But Dr. the floor is yours. Please tell us.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's refreshing to hear that there's a clear understanding that domestic is going to play a key role. But let me just reiterate again, the domestic traveler is still a traveler with the same sort of challenges that any other traveler that will come from anywhere will have. So one of the plans that we have laid in place is, first of all, understand, how will you be able to realize that you're moving towards recovery? I think the panelists and there's discussions around, when will we be able to fly? Let's move away from that. Let's first agree a common understanding on the protocols. And this is as a destination, Kenya, because even a domestic traveler wants to know that. Even before you move to Tanzania, your Kenyan wants to know, do you have a protocol about me moving from Nairobi to Mombasa, or Nairobi to Kisumu, or Nairobi to Mount Kenya? And what is that protocol, and will I meet it? And come back without having a challenge around quarantine. Because remember, there's counties that are locked, which means there's also that possibility around that. So understanding that, that's important for us. Then secondly, it's the real resumption of domestic travel. Now, we will focus on domestic travel for a number of reasons. First of all, if you look at all of the research that's available, the point that Alex made around, and actually that you, Chair, made around the Mercy flight that went to collect our citizens from China being an important thing. People will want to know, when will the airlines open? We need to park that discussion, because any indications that you have or that we read about, which we are all privy to, show us a 3, 6, 9 month lead time. So if we come to domestic, then the pertinent issue is, how do people want to travel? So it's that understanding around, even when we present domestic as an opportunity or as a viable way to jumpstart our industry, we need to think through the whole plan around how people move from one place to another and what means they use. The conversation around cost will also come up. And therefore, as partners in the trade, as people who are providing access, we need to think through that. Because remember, the same challenges, the same economic challenges that are there globally are the same economic challenges that Kenyans have. You will segment them into different audiences, but they will be asking themselves, what is my priority at the moment? So previously, domestic has been around holidays. The travel of domestic has been driven around either Christmas or some sort of holiday, school holidays or Easter. What you're wanting to do to make that audience viable is to create travel opportunities that they haven't thought about. So there's that leap that we as a communication and a marketing agency need to think about and say, what are all the possible opportunities that we can provide to our trade partners where they can attract a domestic traveler? And this is 1 day, 5 days, 2 weeks, 6 days, any sort of length that allows people to move from one place to another. So there's that discussion around that. So determining what is the promise. Once we go over that, you asked a very pertinent question, the time frame. The time frame will be led a lot around the steps to recovery as dictated by obviously government, then protocols, then comfort within Kenyans, because they have the same challenges that any other traveler from anywhere else has. So until people are comfortable that I have a protocol that seems like it is going to keep me safe and everybody has a clear understanding around that, then they will not be able to make that decision up to that point. Once we are able to do that, because then the trick is that once we have protocols around domestic and around movement from county to county, you immediately take away one barrier, which is a key barrier, which is this conversation around quarantine, which at the moment is 14 days both ways. So once there are protocols within our country, we can then begin to say, okay, fine. If you're moving from a county that is high risk, maybe we have the conversation that says, let's put in the various certificates that you need to move you to the next county. And therefore, we now begin to look at the country as destinations, different destinations in different counties. So that's the third part. The fourth part then is, how do we make the plan? We have the plan. We now need to come to the people that deliver the plan, who are our partners. And from now, we currently have a latent audience that is sitting at home. So from now, how do we come together and partner with the trade to start to show Kenyans? Remember, Kenyans have had a view that says nobody is focusing on us. It is true. Unfortunately, the chicken has come to roost. This is our only customer. This is our only traveler. So let's treat them with the focus and the support and the excitement that we have treated all our other travelers, so that we are enticing them. Let us begin to show Kenyans what Kenya really is all about. Places they haven't been to, things they haven't known, things that are within their own counties that they haven't even discovered. So we have a whole movement around rediscovering our country. And as Kenyans, and being in the position where they will want to go somewhere, they just need somebody to really appreciate that they are a latent audience and prepare ourselves, both as trade as well as government, to be ready to receive that domestic traveler with whatever options we have to offer. Timelines. Like any person that you're wooing, we need to start wooing the domestic traveler now, like a bride. Because we start now, they'll be ready for us in 2 or 3 months when we have we've eased the protocols around staying at home, around moving around. So we have the opportunity now. So the destination offering and diversity is available. Let us begin to show it to Kenyans. And we'll show it to Kenyans as we show it to the globe, but focusing on the fact that this is a latent audience now, today, a latent customer. So you asked me the question about when we start now. Let's start showing our country to Kenyans as well as we show it to the globe. So that when people are ready, we have a head start, because remember, it will be a competition. Everybody will be looking for a customer. Everybody will be looking for a traveler. Let's start with the one that we have. So we have the plans, we've got the outline. We just need to deliver and partner together to be able to make it competitive.
Thank you very much, Betty. And I like the last bit where you said, when do we start? And you said we start now. Mm-hmm. And for members and the participants, and now we are standing at 460. So if you thought you're going to plan...
I can come in. I can say that,
yes,
first of all, it's very important for us to know who is our client. Majority of our clientele have been the people who can afford to, which is the people who are more senior. Today, the senior clientele is the one at risk in terms of health. Vulnerable in terms of health. So they'll be more careful. They will travel because they have the money. They might use the jets, but they'll be more careful. First, they will do the audit. What were you doing during the COVID-19? Do you have the capacity, health capacity? Yeah? Are your numbers growing, or you have actually flattened the curve? These will be questions before even they make a decision to your destination. So we in Africa here, we are at risk if we don't flatten the curve, and particularly us in Kenya, because we depend 10% and 24% linkage to tourism. We must flatten the curve as soon as possible. So will there be tourism in the next 2 months of foreign travel? I doubt it. In fact, international travel will start coming in slowly 2021. And I said it earlier here, until there's a confirmation of a vaccine, then people will feel comfortable to fly by air and fly. And they'll be desperate, they want to go. But remember, they'll be bankrupt. And then there'll be a competition of 140 other countries that are competing to offer destinations at affordable and deals for people to come to their destinations. So these are things that we need to take in cognizant. So that retiree, or that somebody who has a senior clientele, is going to be very difficult. So even the pocket is going to be thinner. So we need to create products that will excite the younger generation. We need to create experiences and products that definitely that younger generation will be able to buy at an affordable price. Yeah, but yes, somebody mentioned, and I looked at the questions, irrespective of your clientele, the number one will be health. Number two will be safety. Number three will be price. And number four, you have to guarantee excitement worthwhile that vacation. So those are things beyond passports, beyond color, and beyond any clientele you're targeting. This is what we need to do. So what do we need to do in the next 6 months and 1 year? These are things the private sector needs to be innovative about. How do we capture the clientele? You think we don't have a middle-class clientele? We have them. But we need to be more innovative to target. I know some of our stakeholders have never dealt with local market. So today it is very difficult to think about a local clientele, but maybe today take the risk and the courage. I can tell you, you can be able to be in business and survive. Thank you.
Thank you, Waziri. And going through the questions here, and I just want to say that we've got 458, actually 460 participants, which is very encouraging. And we are reading through your questions. As much as you may not have an opportunity to speak and ask questions, ladies and gentlemen, we'll try as much as possible to read them through and answer. And I think, Masharia, while you may not have been listed, would like to, there's a lot of questions coming up for you as well, Mike Masharia, and specifically when it comes to guidelines, protocols, and you've been very much in it as a hotelier and as KHC, and which in turn goes all the way to the restaurants. And I can also see members saying that we need protocols and guidelines, very clear to map out on Kenya's way forward. And that's what Waziri has been saying as well, that in future, in the next coming month, that is what the world will use to gauge us. So Mike, maybe you would like to comment and highlight some of the things that we've been able to achieve as an industry.
Okay, thank you, Mohammed. In terms of protocols, we had a meeting yesterday with Waziri. He was kind enough to organize a meeting with the team from Ministry of Health. We had the DG there, Dr. Amoth. We had Dr. Ombacho, who is in charge of public health. We had Dr. Kilonzo. We had Dr. Mbaye from the Nairobi Metropolitan Service. And we had the CEC Health, Hiten, from Nairobi County. And what we agreed is that we form a technical team to look at hotels, number one, another one to look at restaurants, and another one to look at the retail sector. So these reports must be given back by Friday, and then Waziri will organize a review meeting on Monday. Then from Monday, we can map the way forward. So what we've done is that we've sent those, we had some draft protocols for KHC and for PERAC, and we've circulated those to members, and we've asked them to input so that we can get as much information as possible from the membership. Then with that, now we can come up with proper protocols. And protocols will be important when it comes to people making their choice of travel. So we will do that and finish that next week. Now, the team from the ministry is actually doing a good job in terms of flattening the curve. Because when we compare with other countries, today we're on day 60. Italy at day 60 had already lost about 10,000 people. The US had already lost about 20,000 people. So we must be doing something positive as a country. So what we need to do is build on these protocols and then issue them, and now start thinking about protocols for other areas. There's questions that are coming up. Social distancing on the aircraft. How about social distancing on the tour vans? How about social distancing on game drives? How do you get into the parks? Will the parks now just admit everybody? Will it be like we've seen before, 20, 30 cars around one mating couple of lions? These are the protocols that we'll need now to develop as an industry going forward. It will just not just be about the hotels. Now, there's another question that was asked from me. So since I have the mic, Mohammed, you can let me answer. I think Liz
Yes, please carry on. Carry on. There are a couple of questions for you actually there. Carry on.
Yeah, Liz Safari was asking which taxes we were able to, through our own memos and also through CS Balala, we were able to stop the introduction of pack fees, VAT on pack fees last time. There was proposed VAT on tourism services. There was proposed VAT on conservancy fees. There was the exemption on conservation, building conservation units had been removed. The exemption from importing equipment when you're building a hotel had been removed. So we had about 8 or 9 sets of taxes.
Including airlines as well.
Yeah, in fact, even airlines were there.
Spare parts, yeah.
That we campaigned, the airline spare parts, that we campaigned to have removed. Now, that's the good news. The bad news is that reading the finance bill 2020, the CS Treasury seems to have reintroduced everything that was removed afresh. So we still need CS Balala support on this one. Because the finance bill is a bit more technical. It doesn't go for public participation before it is read. It is actually subjected to public participation afterwards. And we don't want to be in a situation whereby government is not able to do business for about 5 to 6 months because the public is up in arms. So we probably, CS will ask you, maybe you can speak to your colleague, have them relook at those issues again and remove them right from the word go. I don't think there's any other. There was another question for me, which is we can answer with the CS Balala. Interestingly, because people are still in a state of worry. I have a question here. Somebody is asking me, can staff who are unable to pay rents in Nairobi or in Mombasa be given permits to travel up country? It's a very unique situation. And it's something that we can look at, Waziri. There was another one maybe that can go to CS Balala.
I think the one that that's come up clearly also is we are focusing on staff getting tested. So the restaurant owners and hoteliers are saying, wait a minute, you've tested our staff.
Yes.
But I've got a group of 40 coming for dinner or 30 people coming for dinner.
Yeah.
What happens?
These are the protocols that we are working on. And yesterday I handed CS Balala and the MOH team a 5-page document that outlines what we need to do. And it says if you're coming from overseas, then you must have a test before. Now, if you're coming locally, we have the temperature checks, we have the sanitizers and so on. And we can stop you from the entrance. But nothing can stop us from telling the public, also get yourself tested. Now, the issue with the staff is that there's a lot of complaints coming to our industry, CS, saying, why are you not testing matatu drivers and supermarket attendants and so on and so forth? And my answer to that is that we as the industry, if we are able to come up with a protocol and be able to test, then we can be the leaders in COVID matters. So people can pick our prototype and take it to the other sectors. So maybe they can take it to manufacturing, but we've got to be the leaders because our place is very high contact socially, and we need to be the ones to be leading. So that's the answer I'm giving people, and I hope it's adequate because then we can't just say since matatus and supermarkets are doing the wrong thing, then it's okay for us as hospitality and tourism to do the wrong thing, because hospitality and tourism, we are judged by very, very high standards, and we've got to keep those even when it comes to health. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mike. Still with you, Mike. TUI, the leading tour operator in the world, yesterday announced that as they reopen tourism, they will not accept any hotel to host their clients or serve them buffet style. So there's no more buffets. Breakfast is purely buffet wherever you go around the world, buffet. You come to dinners, same story. Then there is a big threat on all-inclusive, which is the mainstay of Kenya Coast, for instance, and
Yes.
many resorts around the world.
Yeah.
So where does that leave us? Because all the Nairobi hotels, breakfast is never set menu or a la carte.
It's something that we would have
And what
to...
will hoteliers be doing differently to address this? Because the issue is that serving spoon is going to be touched by 150 people who are dining.
There are two
And
ways
that
of...
is,
There are two ways of
that's a
looking
question
at
that
it.
we want to hear from you.
There are two ways of looking at it. Number one, you can have a buffet and you have your people wearing gloves doing the service. So they can serve from behind the buffet, the chefing dishes. So don't allow people to touch the serving spoons themselves. Secondly, we will have to re-engineer our businesses. We will have to give up some of the conveniences that we've had for a long time. And if it means doing a service of 70 to 100 people, double the hot, then so be it. We will have to do it because we are the ones who want these clients. And we've got to show the clients that we've got something new to offer that will give them comfort. So if that's what a major supplier of business is telling us to do, we might as well sit down and work out the protocols of having it done. There's another conversation that I'll be having with the CS about TUI, because there's something else that we also need to check on. The German government, as you know, has put in a lot of money in businesses. And I think TUI got 1.6 billion euro to support its operations. So this is money that we feel should be paying the suppliers locally who have not been paid by TUI since probably the last quarter of last year. So this is something that we'll be having a conversation with CS Balala, so that even as you're giving us your conditions, you need to first pay our money what you owe us. Then we can discuss these other issues as we go along.
Maybe I come in, Mohammed. I want to take up from the issue of not only of TUI, but what happens if suppliers, if you want to supply services to overseas people, you are giving credit. But when they want to sell you something, there is no credit to you. So I experience, I have some little business and I do, and they don't give you any, you have to pay everything in advance. So here I wonder when these companies then harass you and they take long to pay you, and then you take too long to pay the suppliers. I think it's a high time, and probably this KTF should take up. Probably KTF should come and say that there should be a code of conduct of paying suppliers, because you cannot kill the SMEs. Our SMEs in the tourism sector are dying because they are not being paid on time. So we need to protect the SMEs. But I want to come back to the protocols. We had a beautiful meeting yesterday, and definitely it's the first time we have an inclusive way of discussing protocols. Normally you'll get directly from the Ministry of Health without any consultation. So I convinced the minister, and we've agreed. We as government, we believe in inclusivity. So we started with the hospitality industry, and particularly restaurants and the eateries. So we have a protocol which is clear, yeah. And then there was a complaint from your industry, and they said it's too expensive. We reduced it. The cost to government is 4,000 shillings. We reduced it to 1,000 shillings in public health facilities. Private sector, it's up to them. I know other hospitals are charging up to 10,000 shillings, but I want to make it clear, because somebody asked here, how come other hospitals are not charging 1,000 shillings? We made it very clear. Public health facilities is 1,000 shillings because government is subsidizing. Private sector are making money, and the actual cost of these reagents, yeah, and these facilitation minimum is 4,000 Kenya shillings. So that is already a big relief to the hoteliers. And I like what Mike Macharia said. We cannot go business as usual and have a fully fledged operation of a restaurant. We cannot do that. Yeah. So we need to actually shrink the operations until everything comes back. I want to do one correction. Most of the hotel accommodations were shut down before these protocols were in place. A few of them were still open. Even if you are still open, you must comply with the requirement of public health protocols. You must comply. So we have not shut down hotels that gives accommodation, but you must comply with the protocol of hygiene, social distancing, and also the tasting of your staff. And staff must be from the owner, whoever will be there on duty serving the clients. Then there's the other issue, what happened to clients? I can tell you, I had some people who wanted to cross from Mombasa to Nairobi. And these were sick people who wanted to come to hospital in Nairobi. And they could not be allowed to be given a permit despite they were entitled to until they went for testing and they tested negative. So this health COVID certificate, that is going to be a norm, not only internationally, but even to accommodate people in hotels or probably to cross from one border area to another. It might be the norm. But yes, we are trying as much as we can to make sure that we facilitate this tasting. But I can tell you, it is important to make sure that these protocols are followed. The final issue I want to say, I want, and I have been lobbying this in government, and my colleagues have accepted, why can't the sectors be proactive? For example, the hotel industry. You know there are protocols international by TUI, by Hilton, by Marriott. Yeah, work with them. You come to tell us as government, these are the protocols by international standards. We want to follow them. Please, we want to make it, we want your endorsement. We will do it for you. We have no problem. So we want to partner with TUI to get the protocols so that we can get the protocols right. We want to partner with Hilton and the rest, but we want to be international standard. We cannot be a substandard because we are in Africa or because we are going to the domestic market will be substandard. No, these protocols will have to respect every color, every nationality, and every segment of our society. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Waziri. I'll be coming to Alex very shortly because we don't want to make this tourism or rather hotel and tours only. Waziri, I think I'll take you back to something. When you talk about pending bills, and members are still eager to know, especially the travel trade, who are owed almost 460 million. If that money today was paid, Waziri, it will go a long way to put some money into the pockets of most of the travel agents are small. Those are SMEs. Now, if they are not able to pay salaries, they're not able to pay their bills, they're not able to pay rents, it becomes very difficult. If they got that money today, Waziri, that will be a huge boost for them. Is there any chance? And yes, what is the progress on that 460 million specifically for travel agents? And then, of course, hotels also owed some big money as well.
Let me also inform you that last week in the cabinet meeting, I raised the issue. Most of the ministries do not have the exchequer release or finances by the Ministry of Finance. So I have discussed this with the CS Yatani, the CH for National Treasury. He has accepted to allocate money to clear these bills. And he assured me in his financial statement, he will make that announcement. So that is being assured. Hopefully in the month of June, this will be paid and we'll have no problem of pending bills from the stakeholders.
Thank you very much, Waziri, and all the participants who have been asking questions.
And in fact, Mohammed, probably today morning, I signed a whole list with attachments of all pending bills forwarding to the National Treasury. So I forwarded officially today. Previously, what we were doing and the PS was doing was writing to specific ministries. Now we have compiled everything and we have forwarded to the CS Yatani for him to take action.
We appreciate that, Waziri, and we don't take it for granted. Alex, back to you now again. Someone has posted it and I agree with them. And of course, we had the IATA report, Center for Aviation report says that most airlines, if things continue the way they are, May, June, most will be bankrupt and they'll never be able to fly back again. That is worrying us because even regional, let alone international, we depend on working airlines. And when we see the likes of BA, we see the likes of Lufthansa, we see the likes, everybody, shedding or rather sending people out, their staff being declared redundant. That is worrying us. Now, where you're seated, what will you tell us? And I would like you to focus also on African Airlines. We've never done well as African Airlines. I think the closest we've been probably was 10 years ago when Kenya Airways was doing extremely well. And then Ethiopian Airlines, I discovered recently in my studies that is actually one of the oldest airlines, older than Lufthansa, older than BA, right next door here in Ethiopia. And they've been able to do a lot of things for the African continent. Of course, South African Airways went under and they're trying to find their way. What does the future hold for us? Because without a working aviation industry, then we'll be stuck. Alex.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting question. And basically it goes back to, I think, to 1978, deregulation in the US.
Yes.
Let me tell you something. It's very, very easy to make money like Ethiopian does, because to a large extent, Ethiopia is still in 1978. You know, they are more or less a monopoly in Ethiopia. All Safarilink would not exist in Ethiopia, for example. So everything is dominated by Ethiopian. All the imports into the country, exports that go by air, Ethiopian. All travel, government and otherwise from Ethiopians' nationality. You know, so they all support their airline. So if you have such a model, it's very easy to make money. Now, Kenya, and way post 1978, after deregulation started in the US, it's seen a huge growth, obviously, massive growth in airline traffic and making, I remember, and I think I'm fairly young, just even 20 years ago, going to the airport, and then you'd see buses and delegations when somebody was going overseas. Today, you don't see that anymore, because it was a really, really big deal to travel. Now, traveling is, if you look at like my travel patterns to Kisumu, I can have a flight tomorrow morning, Saturday, and it's empty. And when I come back to the office, midnight, I don't know, people don't sleep. Midnight, people are, just spa, they're buying tickets. So it's made it very cheap. Now the relative, and then the barriers to entry for aviation in a liberal market like Kenya are very low. So anyone and everyone can really come into the industry. So globally, the problem you have is overcapacity. So you have huge capacity. The costs are very, very high. Our industry is considered sexy. So everyone wants to say, I own an airline, that sort of thing. And it's really been to the benefit of the consumer, because all these people who come in, I can tell you, within 2-3 years are out. They're bankrupt because the return and what they're charging is not there. Now, post-COVID, generally, a lot of people will fall off. So it might be good for some solid airlines because the prices will go up, obviously, because there will be fewer players. So in the interim, in the short term, yes, that will be the problem. It will also be very difficult for players in aviation to get financing, because you saw what Warren Buffett did. He sold all his shares in the airline industry. And obviously he's a role model in terms of investing. So all the hedge funds, people who are serious will be like, you know what, aviation is too risky. I'd rather not invest until people forget. So I think in the short term, yes, prices will have to go up because there'll be less capacity. And then it will allow the well-run airlines, to finally get a return on their investment, which totally up until now has been lacking generally. So it's not good news for the consumer. It's not good news for tourism, because we all depend on numbers. Those numbers, I think, in the short term will not be there because there will be, quotes, no fools coming rushing in to invest in the short term.
Oh, thank you.
Probably, Mohammed, I want to come here, yes? I think what we need to think, or to change our thinking, or the model, is the economic of scale. Yeah, again, Kenya Airways, why is it not profitable? Because we have not, all of us, committed that we all must fly with KQ. And KQ then will have to bring their cost down, their service must be efficient. It's not guaranteed you take us for granted. So economic of scale. So economic of scale, for example, and I agree sometimes when I engage with Alex, the economic of scale of flying to Mara. If you're flying with a small caravan of 12-seater and then the airstrip has no tarmac, every 2 weeks you have to change the tire, yeah? and the economic of scale that goes to, let's say, Diani, or that goes to Mombasa with huge dash of 50 people, then the price will be different. So we need to think together the economic of scale, even running hotels. Look at the hotels in Antalya, look at the hotels at the Caribbeans. These are hotels almost 1,000 rooms. That's why they can sell cheap. We cannot sell cheap because our model is economic of scale is small, and we cannot make money with small projects and expect to have profits. So there is a model that we need to change. If we want to be small, then we will be expensive, and then we'll have fewer numbers coming into our country. Being expensive, not necessarily you're benefiting from the sector. So sometimes it's volumes. So this model needs to be rethought through. And I want the industry. Don't let the government lead this. This is a private sector business. I appeal, my dream, let me tell you my dream. My dream is to see Serena, Sarova, Sopa join in as a powerful giant so that they can be like JW Marriott, Protea. This is my dream. I want to see Kenya Airways, South African Airways, and Ethiopian Airways building a powerful airline and multiple hubs and rule the continent of Africa. That is my dream. Yeah? Because then you have economic of scale. But if everybody wants to have some little airline, look at Delta. Delta is powerful. Look at the airlines in USA. But us, if Uganda wants to go on their own, they cannot even buy more than 5 aircrafts. Tanzania, they cannot buy 5 aircraft. Look at Kenya, which is a powerful, efficient, and I want to congratulate KQ. They have done well. But again, economy of scale, only 40 or 50 aircrafts. Look at Turkish Airlines. Turkish Airlines go in every city in the world with 300 aircrafts. So economic of scale. So we need to think about economic of scale and how the profitability comes in, and then eventually the cost. Thank you very much.
I think, Waziri, when you talk about Kenya Airways, now that they have a new CEO, Alan Kilavuka, I think it's only fair, we recognize the efforts that he's putting through, and also the chairman, MJ. I wish they came on board, 10 years ago, but as things are now, we can only wish them the best of luck. Let's face it, Kenya Airways, they're doing what they can. And it's very important that as a national carrier, we continue having it. Without a national carrier, we'll see the moment we don't have one is when we realize actually the disadvantage of having a national carrier. On that, Waziri, I'd like to ask.
Probably, Mohammed, I forgot to say that if Safari Link and Air Kenya and all these smaller Safari airlines join together and become a big one, we will have an economic of scale. Thank you.
Thank you, Waziri. Waziri, KQ nationalizing. I know it is on the table and it is really going to process. And one of the things making Ethiopian Airlines successful is because it's been nationalized. And we've been there before as Kenya. And of course, in Kenya, we have serious governance issues. But I hope we've learned from those mistakes. Moving forward, where are we, Waziri, on the nationalizing when you speak to the CS Macharia? And when will that happen? Because if that is going to happen, then only then will Kenya Airways be able also to get out of the rat hole where they are.
Well, I want to say nationalizing Kenya Airways is an advanced stage. We are almost concluding. Everything is up to date. So there's no delay. The only delay is because of the COVID-19 has happened. But I can tell you, we are committed. Everything has been done. The paperwork is being done. It's in an advanced stage. But it doesn't mean from Kenya Airways being a stock market, listed in the stock market to nationalize, things will be miraculously done. No, because now we have more challenges. We don't have passengers. Yeah. And definitely, I want to support Kenya Airways. I will go at any length. Without Kenya Airways, we might not get a strong tourism sector. And if we want to be a hub, airline hub, and we want to be the champions and big players in tourism, and even business, live about tourism, Kenya Airways must exist, but also we must look at its governance. We cannot run Kenya Airways and bring mismanagement or governance issues. We must look at those governance issues and put it right. So these are the issues. And sometimes we might blame government where governance is not transparent, let's also look at the private sector, how governance are in the private sector as well. So these are the things that we need to change mindset, not only in the government, but in the private sector as well. Thank you.
I think, Waziri, I was engaging Alan sometimes back and asked him, how many flights do you have in a day? Because, you know, as Kenyans, sometimes we may not appreciate what we have. You know, when you look at African countries, I am not suggesting that we compare ourselves with the worst, but we also need to appreciate where others are and where we are. And he told me that on a single day, on a good day, they can fly 160 flights in and out of Nairobi and many other places, 160, you know, getting into Nairobi. That's a very large number, Waziri. You can imagine if KQ was not there today, and suddenly we all have to go through Bole in Ethiopia or go through a European country to visit another African country. A simple example is from West Africa. You want to visit Senegal, which is next door from, let's say, Niger. You have to go to France and then fly back to another African onto the continent again. So I think it's in our best interest that we make sure that actually Kenya Airways, you know, does well. We are running out of time and we'll be coming to a close shortly. But I'll take you back again, Waziri, to something else that people have mentioned severally about the COVID-19 testing. We have the testing whether you're negative or positive. But there's another line, and Mike Macharia, you may take note of that as well. There's a new science that is being put forward, which is the antibodies, where you may have contracted the virus and you shook it off and you never knew that you had it. But if you're tested, just to discover you actually had it and actually you're a survivor and you will not be able to get the virus again. And that could be probably a new avenue to get our people tested quicker, because it's also cheaper to do that rather than doing the COVID-19 test. Probably, Waziri, any quick comment on that?
Well, we have seen some trials on the quick testing, which is called the express testing. We wish that can be perfected and we can bring them here, because I can tell you some of the new norm, you will not be able to board the aircraft until you do a quick express testing to confirm to the airline that you are negative. So this will be the new one. But in future, yes, we will have an express testing. So far, the express testing that have been tried has not been efficient. That's why the Kenyan government has still maintained the testing of 24 hours results. That is crucial, so you don't take any risk about it. But yes, we've heard about all the medicines that are being introduced now, Gilead and the rest. These are medicines that are still not perfected. And everybody is telling you from WHO, a perfected trial will take at least 1 year to 15, 18 months for it to be said, this is now perfected. All the medicines that are coming out now are not perfect. Then there is the antibodies, the ones that are used now for treating people who are sick, just to be able to stabilize the patient so that he doesn't go to the extreme side. Those are the antibodies that are being used even here, the hydrochlorine thing that I've heard about. So these are the things that are being used, but different scientists, I can tell you we have the capacity as Kenya, and I'm proud to be a Kenyan. Yeah, we have scientists who are good, as much as sometimes they are not very much public, but I can tell you I've been recently in the conversation of Ministry of Health, and we have good people, and they're alert of what's going on globally, and they're participating in this research to get a vaccine. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Waziri. And still on your case, Waziri, that I would like you to touch on quickly. Conservation. I know the other day you had a webinar specifically with conservationists. And on this forum today, we have quite a number of them. I can see Patawuri, I can see Paula Kahumbo, I can see very many of them. And they're all very concerned, obviously, when it comes to the safari business. That's our cornerstone. Without wildlife, as much as people say, hey, let's come up with new product, wildlife will always remain the bedrock, of our tourism. Waziri, quickly, you'd like to give an overview of conservation and then also touch on Nairobi National Park, especially the plan that is coming up and the June deadline that we've had. This is actually a good forum for you to shed light on that.
First of all, the Nairobi National Park, this is a legal requirement to do the management plans. So far, we have 23 national parks. We only have 8 management plans. And without a management plan, you cannot regulate what's going on in these national parks. So because it's a legal requirement, and last year we were summoned in Parliament to do this, so KWS was mandated to develop the legal framework to do. So KWS has developed a proposed management plan. It was very inclusive. They consulted a lot of people, and there's a list of people I was shown. Last week, I called KWS to my office to take me through the Nairobi management plan, so that whatever I hear that people are not happy, are being, is it true, or is it being considered, or are we thinking differently? And I can tell you, I'm satisfied now with the revised management plan that has been including all the proposals from Friends of Nairobi and other stakeholders who are objective. So KWS hopefully next week will give the revised management plan, and all those issues have been taken in consideration. So we're still under dialogue, and I gave, there was also a requirement of 21 days with management plan, and that was a legal requirement in formulating the management plan. But because we had the voices of the people, we have extended that time for dialogue to be end of June. So end of June, everybody has. I know some people are saying, oh, probably there's something mischief, that's why they are doing it during the COVID-19 curfew. No, there's nothing. This has been planned from last year. The curfews and the COVID-19 issues was just a coincidence. Secondly, nowadays, we all work on Zoom. Even cabinet, this morning I had a cabinet meeting. For 4 hours, we were just on Zoom. Yesterday, I had a cabinet committee meeting. Again, for 4 hours, just on Zoom. So these are the now new norm of communicating rather of going to a hall and then collecting opinion. But when life goes to normal, if that requires, we will do that. So I want the stakeholders and the so-called conservationists, please bear with us. The intention is positive. The intention is good. And we want to do what is right. I can tell you, under my watch, it will be what is right going to happen. Anything not is right, it will not happen under my watch. But let's be objective as well to support KWS. KWS has been having challenges, but I can tell you it's a good institution. I'm proud of KWS, and they have the capacity to do what it is. What I appeal to the conservationists, let's build partnerships. Rather of talking to each other through the media or through social media, yeah, let's engage in a more civil manner so that we can be able. When this was communicated to me, I brought in KWS and I told them they must listen to the voice of the people. And there's nothing that will happen without following the law. The law will require an environmental impact assessment study. And that is a transparent process. So all this is positive. And I'm glad that now I am satisfied with the review. And I hope next week KWS will make it public and people will still participate until end of June to conclude this process.
Thank you very much.
Then the second thing is that we had a beautiful, again, webinar last week on conservation. Yes. How do we remodel? And I quickly want to say what the conclusions were. To me, I think it is the new rethink. We must have new policies in conservation. The policy that we are working on now is 1975. And I'm glad I can tell you that we are going to have a good policy, which is inclusive, which addresses everybody's interests, including communities, and how do the country benefit from wildlife as well. And we make sure that our endangered species are well secured. So there's proper security for the endangered species. Number two is about technology and innovation. It's not about how many people you have to secure wildlife. It's technology nowadays. We have ear notching, we have all the collars, we have technology, softwares, everything. Yeah, we have seen this, the technology they use at Lewa. Yeah, beautiful technology. Now we have the same in KWS, which we can monitor all the elephants as well in the northern part. And then it's about how do we finance the sector? Yes, I think as much as sometimes conservationists think that tourism is a liability to conservation, but it has to work hand in hand. Yeah, today there is no tourism. Literally, all the parks are doing zero revenues. The conservancies are going to collapse if they don't have revenue from tourism. So we need to find a balance about conservation and tourism as well. But also, how do we finance it? Why don't we create a huge endowment fund, a trust fund, where the proceeds can be used both for communities, conservation programs, and KWS for manning the national parks. This is important. I can tell you, Chair,
Yes.
in the last 5 years, 2019 backwards, we had $126 million being brought in for conservation by international community or by the donors.
Say that again, how much was it?
$126 million. Basically $25 million every year. KWS only receive $1 million per year. $24 million go to other programs. But when a challenge happens, when a lion eats somebody, when an elephant kills somebody, again, the liability becomes government, and government must come and support the communities. For example, I have a bill of almost 5 billion shillings on human-wildlife conflict. We have focused on anti-poaching, which we have done very well. I can tell you from January to today, touch wood, not a single rhino has died from poaching. So we have done very well in it. We are not going to relent. We must be alert, especially now when there is confusion, when there is no resources, when there is no much strength on the ground, especially from the community conservancies. Yeah, we need to be alert. But again, we have forgotten about human-wildlife conflict. We have forgotten about corridors. We have forgotten about other endangered species. We have forgotten about. So we want to go back and do this. So financing is key. Then the other one, which is critical, number 4, fresh investment in the conservation sector in terms of expanding the space, as well as doing PPPs, both with communities and private sector to support conservation. And you are doing a great job, Mr. Hersey, on the issue of Taita Hills Conservancies. That again is a PPP. How do we support people to develop things like that? And finally, Chairman, how do we make sure the people of Kenya, they are the focal point in conservation of our wildlife? Because it cannot be seen that conservation and wildlife is about tourists coming and taking pictures and then leaving people in poverty. That cannot be the norm. We must change it. The people of Kenya must benefit from conservation, not from handouts, from park entry fees. No, it has to be partnership communities need to do. But I can tell you, we are ahead and we are good in conservation. And I say it again, my doors are open for the conservation sector to join me, and we do this big agenda, and we need to safeguard our heritage. Thank you.
I think, Waziri, the other day when we had our first webinar as KTF, we had identified 5 key areas, and conservation was on its own. And we have a team of 7 people with a chair who have been identified, and they will be sitting down to come up with the way forward. Mwakai Sio Mwalimu has said that, yes, we know we have a problem, we have all the challenges, when are we going to start moving? And I just want to assure everybody that we did identify the 5 semantic areas, which is hotels, then we have tours, then travel and aviation, and then pubs and entertainment and conservation. And then we also said that we don't want a chair from a board member who is currently on KTF or on the board of any of the associations. We actually want a chair from the industry, somebody else independent altogether, because it's normally very easy to say things when you're outside. So we actually want people to come on board, and rather than us looking out for them, we're looking for volunteers. I can see we still have over 400 participants in this forum, and many others from even Europe. I can see somebody from the US, at 4 a.m. connecting with us. We don't take that for granted. We would like chairs and we like members to connect with KTF Secretariat led by Suzanne and volunteer that you want to be either on the hotels or tours, travel, whichever, because there will be 5 areas. And when it comes to conservation, Waziri, we'll be engaging you so that we can narrow the gap between conservationists and the ministry. Because without wildlife and without a Nairobi National Park that is working properly, then we will not be doing the right thing. And rest assured we'll do that. Waziri, still on you again. One thing that has come up, and you wanted to answer it earlier, is Kenya Utalii College. Recently, we got a memo to say that the hotel has been closed. If you ask me where I'm seated, I was asking, was it still open? Because all hotels had already closed. Now, what is the future for Kenya Utalii College and specifically also the hotel? I'll give you some 3 minutes, and then so that I can go back to Dr. Betty Radia, and also to Alex Avedi, and also Mike, as we start wrapping up. Waziri, over to you.
Thank you very much. First of all, Kenya Utalii College is very dear to me and also to the industry. Almost 11 years ago, when I was the minister then in 2008, 2009, I formed a task force to be able to transform Kenya Utalii. And why? Because I received complaints from the industry. Trainings are being done, people are graduating, but then when they go to the trade, they need to be retrained for polishing. So I appointed you, Mohammed Hersi, to do the task force. You created a task force. We created a task force. You gave us the report. Every chairman, every CEO, since then, the first induction with me is to give him the report and tell them, just implement the report and you'll be successful. Unfortunately, this has not happened. Yeah? And if it is one parastatal that is fully loaded with private sector, it is Kenya Utalii College. We have Leonard Mudachi, David Stockdale, Rosemary Mugambi, yeah, and Mark Danford was there before. Yeah, so these are specialists in the hotel industry. Yeah, so I expect the Kenya Utalii College will turn around because we have the right people on the board. Again, it hasn't happened. Recently, I called all my parastatals to have a webinar. Again, we had a Zoom meeting with their chairmen and with the management. Tell us, how do you exist post-corona? Everybody is reforming, including ourselves in government must reform. So we need to cut down budgets. We need to transform and be able to transit to post-corona. How relevant are we going to be? And that is very valid. So I had a meeting with Kenya Utalii College, and the management clearly and the chairman said they have a problem. Their cost of running Kenya Utalii College as a college is 1 billion Kenya shilling, cost of operations. They have 700 employees. Annual graduates we have is about 300 plus people who come out from Kenya Utalii College. So yes, what we have there, again, it was a beautiful college done by the Swiss. We inherited it, but it is almost 50 years old. So we needed an audit of the curriculum. We needed an investment in the infrastructure, and we needed to actually transform our way of teaching people. So these are the things that we need to do. So 1 billion shilling to run Utalii College, I have a problem with that, but we can understand. So where do they get the money from? 500 million and 70 comes from the tourism levy that you pay 2.5%. 570. 100 plus million shillings come from the national treasury. The rest, they collect the money themselves, about 400 million. Then you have the hotel, the Utalii Hotel, that is supposed to be a laboratory to the college. But the hotel is too small, it's only 56 rooms. Even if it is a laboratory, you cannot fit all the students inside that hotel to train them. What we do, we share with Safari Park, we share with Intercontinental, we share with Serena, we share with all these hotels around Nairobi. That is what we do. But then, it is again the management and the chair who told me, they believe the hotel is bleeding the college. How much do you run the hotel? The hotel, running the cost of the hotel to run it, 300 million, 56 rooms only. So I said, what is the status currently? They said it's still operating with 9 clients. How come the whole country, most of the hotels are shut and Utalii Hotel is open with 9 clients? How visible is it? You have to switch on the boilers and the electricity and everything and the staff for 9 clients. I said, this is not possible. And if you think every year you used to get money, yeah, to run your facility of almost $1 billion shillings, I'm sorry, you cannot have it now, because the tourism levy has no money to transfer any money to you, because they don't have clients. They are all closed to actually charge the 2% levy. The National Treasury, their priority is COVID-19, Ministry of Health, is not Ministry of Tourism. How do you run? So we agreed with them that the first priority, tell the 9 clients to look for another alternative, and you shut it down because the whole country shut down. That is the reality we did. Again, I see there is the students of, the former students of Utali College, the alumni. Me, I want to ask a question to the alumni. Yeah? When you go to all these big international institutions, yeah, you go to universities, you say the alumni of this university has constructed this kitchen. I want them to tell me what kitchen have they built in Kenya Utali College? What contribution have they done? The good thing they have done is they've taken me to court to stop me from stopping the bleeding. Fine, we can give them, but who is going to finance it? Because National Treasury has no money to finance it. It's only paying any 100 million shillings. 570 million comes from tourism levy. That comes from tourism. Now there's no tourism. Where would tourism fund get money to fund you if you don't correct your situation? It's a sad situation, Mohammed and members. It is come here and see the reality. And none of them have asked for an appointment to come and show and tell me, Waziri, we want an appointment to come and tell us, how do we save the situation? That is what I will encourage, but no problem.
I think, Waziri, we have very many Utali College alma mater on this forum today, including myself and Mike and many others. You've challenged us as well, but also we must remember, and this is, I'm addressing Kenya Utali College, the governance issues, just like any other organization in this country. So we must make sure that the governance issues are also addressed. I mean, they need to start addressing the issue of cost as well, as much as is a practical side of the college. But I think, Waziri, just like the conservation side, what I suggest is that through KTF, we'll also make means and ways so that Utali, especially the former students who are leading various hospitality organizations in this country, can come in and see how they can help salvage the situation. So Utali College is a prime institution, and with a bit of help and of course proper governance, we should be able to turn the corner and operate even in post-COVID. Ladies and gentlemen, let
me make Mohammed, maybe let me make an out of the box. Or I've told you I've destroyed my box.
You threw away the box, yes.
I threw away my box. Probably we can engage in dialogue. The industry itself, you, Mike Masharia, the Hotel Association, can come to government and say, we want to run Utali College. Why should government run Utali College? Why can't Hotel Association, your members, come and tell government, give us the opportunity to run Utali College? I am ready to listen to that conversation. Yeah, instead of making noise, let us sit down and say, the industry wants to do this, let's create a framework and we do it.
I think that's a good challenge you're giving us, and the 2% actually is ours, Waziri. So if it is something that probably we can come up with.
Well, it's not yours, it's the client, my friend. We charge the client, it's not yours, you are only an agent.
But we are the avenue that is collecting it. We now need to thank you, Waziri, for the explanation and the discourse we've had. There's a comment of, we cannot answer all the questions. There are comments on Airbnb, for instance. But I think my message to NB is very simple. Waziri, we need to start seeing how we can bring them also in a forum where they're able to pay taxes. When you pay taxes, only then will you be able to benefit from KTF and able also to benefit from what government is doing. So I will leave that for now.
Let me also come in here, Mohammed. There'll be no business as usual, not only on Airbnb or even on us. Some of us are not paying taxes. Some of us are not even paying taxes. So after this, there'll be a new norm. And please, I plead with all of us, let's pay our taxes so that we can be able to strengthen our economy as well. And Mohammed, if you can give me the last 3 minutes for me to do the conclusion, I have a few things that I want to mention at the end.
Yeah, we'll come to you as a final thought. Now, let me go to Alex. Alex, you have 2 minutes. Give us a quick closer, and then we come to Dr. Radia.
Okay, so thank you again. Like I said, it's going to be very difficult for us, especially in the aviation sector, for the next 6 months to probably 2 years is when they predict the numbers will go back to last year's numbers. So it's really tough times. What I'd like to suggest maybe to government, and by that, let me point out something here that mostly we in the aviation industry consider CS Balala to be our minister. Because if we want anything done, if we want somebody to listen to our issues, instead of going to our natural ministry, we go to CS because it's very accessible and is also very quick and prompt to listen to us and to offer solutions. So thank you very much for that. But now again to CS Balala, one thing you can do for us, because we all say domestic tourism and regional tourism, that's where we'll see the recovery. There was a question about open skies I saw, and we could. I know, for example, 1 or 2 other airlines do not want open skies because of predatory pricing, and maybe they'll be outmuscled in the home market. But we could have a limited open skies, which is really for Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. You know, if for example, the taxes between the East African community, you know, it's considered an international flight. It's $90 to fly to Entebbe one way, just taxes. You can imagine I could easily launch a flight to Entebbe for 10,000 shillings, you know. So if we could have those destinations being domestic, 600 shillings tax, you know, this will really allow Ugandans, Tanzanians to come to Kenya, Kenyans to go to Jinja, to Entebbe, you know, promote to Rwanda and so forth. East Africa, we should, the South African community should make this an extended domestic market where we remove these $90 taxes each way and only put $6 tax, and for sure there'll be huge growth and revenue, because then that, I know Dr. Betty Radia, in your presentation, we all know about domestic tourism. I saw the other presentation you did, CS Balala, where you mentioned that, you know, it's really about having your local, you know, the way Europe does. The EU supports itself first before you have international traffic.
Thank you very much, Alex. One question that has come up for you, you can help answer that from Alistair Addison, Hemingway's Hospitality. He says, what incentives will international airlines need to ensure that Kenya is one of the first destinations that they consider when deciding which routes to restart international routes? And Waziri, also, you may have that as one of your final thoughts. Alex, very quickly.
Sorry, just repeat that. What's your...
what incentives will international airlines need to ensure that Kenya is one of the first destinations that they will consider when deciding which routes to restart internationally?
Okay, I think CS Balala already did a lot of work, and so it would follow similar lines with what they did for the charter business. And really, this is about taxation, landing, navigation, you know, all those visa fees especially. You know, in this day and age, I mean, government should not be depending on visa fees to finance itself. You know, visa is really just administrative to make sure that undesirables are out. But if you're a family of 4 and I'm charging you $50, $100, you know, you look to other destinations. It becomes very expensive. So, I tell you, like, for example, Thailand, every time they would have issues, you know, they would even give 3 months, 6 months free visas. You know, anyone can come in and, yeah. So those are some of the...
I'm sure Waziri will, I can see when you mentioned visa, I know he has his own thoughts about that, and he'll be able to give us on his final thoughts. Daktari, you've got 2 minutes.
Okay,
yes.
in my 2 minutes, I've been watching the chat go on, and I keep on saying, let's please remember, we want the market that at least will get us to open our business, but as has been said, the private sector is key to us being able to deliver this. We'll start off with domestic, yes, and people might not want to hear this, but that's the reality. And the way we start off with domestic is to make sure that we're ready for them. I keep on saying, let's please not look at the rear view mirror. That's not where we're going. We're going forward. So let's focus on the things that are going to get us there. The destination is open now. as far as I'm concerned. And it is open to the market that is captive and watching us every day. What are we giving them?
Thank you very much. Are you done?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ari. And I'll also give an opportunity to Mike very quickly. You've got 1 minute, Mike, and then Waziri. You are muted. Unmute yourself.
Thanks, Mohammed. I forgot about that. Very quick one. You asked about antibody and antigen testing.
Yeah,
We're having a chat with some doctors today, and they told us that the problem with the antibody testing is that it's turning up a lot of false negatives and false positives to a level of 50%. So the real testing is this one, the antigen testing, where they take a swab behind the throat and into the nose, and that gives almost a 99% result, whether it's positive or negative. So
so for those of us who are fearing those two swabs, have to go through those two.
Yeah. The swabs, you'll have to go through the swabs. But it's also something that we challenged the Ministry of Health team yesterday. We need to get some sort of medical mitigation now. We need to pressurize the medical and the scientific world to give us either a cure or a vaccine, because 18 to 24 months is just, if already people are going hungry after 2 months of lockdown, 18 to 24 months will just be too much. On the open sky, we can also make deals for fifth freedom rights without necessarily opening the entire skies. If we have strategic fifth freedom rights, and we've tried those before, you remember we tried it with a charter from Austria, originating from Munich, and it didn't work. And that was supposed to bring another 4,000 people per week into Mombasa. So we can strategically look at strategic fifth freedom rights as we get towards open sky. Finally, to everybody who's listening, this forum is organized by Kenya Tourism Federation, which is an association of associations. We know that most of the people who joined in were members and partners and non-members and prospective members. My call is to the prospective members. Please join the association that is closest to you, whether you're a tour operator, join KATO. If you're a travel agent, join KATA. If you're an air operator, join KAAO. You can join KCTA, the coast. You can join KHC for hospitality. And you can also join Ecotourism Kenya for sustainable tourism. Because it's only when we have a stronger voice as one that we get things done. So I'm making a pitch for associations. Thanks.
No, that's important, because without associations, and Waziri has always been insisting on this, if we are not strong as associations, then we will not be anywhere. And again, KTF may not have done all the things that you want them to do, but when you look next to in other countries, they don't have anything like KTF or the associations that we have. When you don't have something is when you realize, what you've just missed. So at this juncture, I'd now like to invite Waziri to give us his final thought. As you do that, Waziri, question that has kept coming up was incentives to the industry. And more specifically, are there any plans to help hotels and tour companies and any organization that are servicing huge, expensive loans from banks? Is there anything that government can come in and help, specifically when it comes to moratorium and when it comes to servicing of the interest when there's virtually no business coming in? It's very, very, very important that the Bankers Association, as much as we're engaging them, that they also start looking at ways and means to help the industry. And Waziri, I'd also like to thank everybody. I can see a lot of people who have signed in from different parts of the world. Specifically, I can see the Sovereign himself here from Germany was taken time to join us as well. We don't take that for granted. These are the people who make the industry. I'd like to thank all of them. So Waziri, over to you now. And sorry, this was supposed to be a webinar for Dr. Radier and Alexa, but you've been bombarded. But we appreciate that you've taken all the questions in your stride. Over to you, Waziri. You are muted, Waziri. Susan, unmute Waziri.
Yeah.
Yes.
First of all, I want to thank you and to take up the questions first before I do my conclusive remarks. Yes, I think, Mohammed, I mentioned this to you. I have called the Kenya Bankers Association in my office, and you know the hitch that happened. We couldn't meet with them, but they were willing to engage with us. So I think we can go to an extra space to go and discuss with them. The most important thing is we were told by the governor of Central Bank, the bankers are very positive. They want to deal with individual investor or whoever has an account with them. That is a bit tricky, but you know, we can come as a consolidated team and negotiate with them. But I think that is also open till now. If we can, you want me to organize the Kenya Bankers Association, I will organize that meeting for you.
Well, Waziri, we would like that to be, yeah, just we would like that to be done so that there is a minimum framework. Once the minimum has been agreed, and then anything extra between the bank and the client, that will be the topping, that will be the icing on the cake. If the fundamentals have not been sorted out, Waziri, then it becomes very difficult. And we would like you to help us, do that. Thank you.
Let's discuss offline, and I will engage with the Kenya Bankers Association. I think there is still window of negotiations. The second thing Alistair has just asked is about what airline incentive do we give to the international airlines to come into Kenya? Yes, we have thought about it. I have put a program in place called the Airline Incentive Program. We have had that before with the charters. We increased the charters from 4 charters to almost 20 charters at the cost. So we are going to have the same, an airline incentive program. Again, as Alex said, there are things like discounting the landing fees, removal temporary of the visa fees. So all these things. This is not about sustaining government to charge visa fees. Yeah? It is also very diplomatic. The Geneva Convention is very clear. It has to be reciprocal, country to country. Although we are the ones in need, we should have a standard. For me, if there is anybody for now, for the next 1 year, to try to attract is the regional tourism. And probably, yes, for the next 2 years, let's abolish all visas, but let's be serious in giving incentive to Africans and the regional market to come into Kenya. There is a big market there. Imagine we are 1.2 billion people in Africa. If we can, in the next 5 years, we make sure that 300 to 400 million people travel among ourselves, that will be a huge plus to our economy. So those are the things we are having. But I can tell you also, Alex, the problem sometimes government feels that if they give incentives and they give discount here, for example, you discount these airport taxes, and then does it reflect into the ticket that it is discounted? Sometimes it doesn't get reflected. Park entry fees, we want to discount. But again, because you are selling a package, still the client does not feel. So even I will expect the private sector to come in and say, you government discount this, we will discount this. So that we are clear what will be the final fare, airfare, or the package to the parks. Yeah. And the other thing which I want to reiterate is Betty's position. Let's not be cheated. The protocols that are going to be put in for allowing international visitors are going to be rigid, and they are not going to be attractive, at least for the next 6 months. So let's get this clientele who is in front of us called the domestic market, yeah? and be able to have that mindset change to be able to attract. So in conclusion, Chair and members who are participating here, I have 5 key points I want to share with you. The number 1 point, you could see the value of this forum is strength. If the industry can come and invest heavily in Kenya Tourism Federation, Mohammed, you should not be just a chairman, honorary chairman. We need the capacity of strong people like you to be in the management. So we have proper research, proper data collection, proper lobbying, proper presentation of the industry. When I look at KEPSA, I envy what my industry is. When I look at World Tourism Travel Council, which is a giant organization, but the private sector must be able to finance the Tourism Federation. At the moment, Your offices are an old building at KWS for free. If tomorrow I get angry, I'll kick you out. But you know, we are good people, we are partners. You should not be for free. You should be an industry that telling government, I will do the study for you to implement, rather of telling government to do the study for them to implement themselves. That does not work. Number two, we must, as the industry, forget about government. As an industry, we must have fresh mindset. Mindset both in the market, mindset both in how do we handle the clientele, irrespective of the clientele, either domestic or international. Number three, we must be able to embrace new skills and innovations. I'm telling you today, if we don't do proper audit of the curriculum at Utali College or in our colleges to make them better, these type of curriculums will not take us the second level. So we need reforms in skills development. Number four, we need to make sure that we have the right product, the right experience, and the right clientele. This is number four. And finally, chairman and members, we must take care of our staff. We must take care of our staff. We must take care of our environment. We must take care of the local communities around us. If you have a huge hotel in this vicinity or this location, let the location also feel that they benefit from you. I made it very clear, and this has been before in the UNWTO, you can't have five-star hotels at 3-star communities. We can't have poverty outside our hotel. We must make sure that the communities also benefit so that they can be proud with dignity to defend that investment. Finally, I want to say thank you very much to Susan, KTF, you have tried your best. Mohammed, thank you very much. You guys have been vocal. Fred Kaigwa and Mike Masharia. I want a stronger private sector. I don't want it's not a matter of fighting against each other between government and private sector. It's actually when you have a stronger private sector, they will enrich the policies of government. That is what I believe. And I wish, and seriously, Mohammed, I've mentioned this to you and you, Mike Masharia and Susan. Come and we engage seriously. How do we get this KTF to be a giant with the right infrastructure and right structures so that we can be able to address the agony of the staff, the desperation of the investors, and the confusion that's going on that we don't know where we are going as a sector. Then finally, again, the private sector in tourism must be proactive and active. If people are funding the COVID-19 fund, where is the presence of the private sector? We need to see the presence of the private sector in fundraising as well in this noble cause. Thank you, and I thank you very much for this forum today. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Waziri. That's a very strong closure. And you allow me, I can see very many comments coming in. Unfortunately, we'll not be able to respond to all of them. But not to worry, I've seen you've typed a lot of issues you've raised, and let me assure you, we'll be reaching out to you to address some of the issues that you've raised. For instance, you said, do we have an R&D department at KTF? Yeah. So, and Waziri, I know you set up you've partnered with Kenyatta University. I believe we can tap into that. And Patricia will be reaching out to you to see how best we can benefit from everybody. And I would like to appeal once again to all the members. We have the 5 semantic areas that were identified. We are looking for 7 members under chair. So Suzanne, get in touch with everybody so that we can get all these teams to start working. And next time, Waziri, when you're on this forum, we'll be making a presentation on what we've come up with, and when we will dedicate each webinar to a particular sector so that we are able to ask government the things that they're able to do for us. Because if you are not also looking organized, the government will not be able to do things for us. So I just want to assure you, as much as we may not have a very strong and muscled KTF, we are now, you can clearly see, we now have still 348 people who are still logged in and listening to all these conversations. So Waziri, we are very strong and we'll continue doing that. It can only get better, and we will take your challenge head on. You've always told us to get better and make KTF, a better organization. I would like to thank all the panelists. Alex Avedi, Asante Sana once again, and I wish you all the very best in aviation. And it's not going to be easy, but we are all together in this. Dr. Betty Radia, it's not going to be easy as well. We promise you, we are going to package ourselves and give you the right product, so that when you go out there and you're competing with 150 other destinations, you'll proudly say, this is what we have. And Waziri mentioned something very important. The world will be judging Kenya on how we've handled COVID in times of crisis. They'll be saying, what did you do? So I'll appeal to everyone on this forum. Let's say good things about our country. I do see that Kenyans are very quick to share the negative things. There are also a lot of good positive things that are happening. But the fact that we're able to churn out protocols so quickly, it means that we have our ducks in a row in a very quick way. So I think those are some of the things that we take for granted. Trust you me, some of the neighboring countries and even globally have not been able to do it. Recently, Washington Post specifically mentioned Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda on how we've been able to handle COVID. And they said there are things that these three countries have done better than the US and many European countries. So I think sometimes we must cut ourselves some slack. We beat ourselves too hard. And yes, we need to continue improving, but we need also to appreciate the things that we've been able to do. Safari guides, next webinar, we will be able to have you on board as well. The Professional Guide Association Waziri. We have over 5,000 of them. These are the people who make the safari experience special in this country. And every time we speak here, we don't talk about them. And I think now that we brought on board conservation, safari guides, wherever you are, and there are very many of them here, we'll be able to have them on board. And I know many of them are suffering because many of them have also been sent on unpaid leave. That's not the way to treat people who put Kenya on the map. But again, we can only do so much in 1.5 hours. Mike, Susan, I want to thank everyone once again, to all the people who have found time to join us. Asanteni sana, God bless you all, and let's look forward to a better Kenya as we deal with this COVID crisis, and hopefully, God willing, inshallah, it will be out of the way. Once again, Waziri, Asante sana.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Brilliant.
Thank you.